Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Ward 6 NPA meeting. Wonderful to see so many of you here tonight. I want to thank everybody for coming out because I know there are a lot of other things you could be doing on a beautiful night, but this is really important. I'm glad all our candidates are here and our voters. So I'm Nancy Harkins. I'm on the steering committee for Ward 6. And with me tonight is one of our members who's going to be elected later in the meeting.
Yeah, sink or swim for me. So y'all vote for me later. But nevertheless, this is my first meeting, is theoretically being on the steering committee, and I'm doing meeting minutes of all things. Nevertheless, I'm Greg Gossens. I live up in the hill section, and my wife and I moved here a year and a half ago. We started here in Burlington when she was in grad school. Moved to Montpelier for all sorts of reasons, professionally mainly. And where I was involved with many commissions and committees and steering committees and groups and like that. And now we moved back here. I wanted to start getting involved in Burlington again, like they were when we first moved here years ago. And we heard this was a low barrier way to start getting involved. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay, great. And we have with us Barbara from City and Charlie from CCTV.
Don't tell them my name tonight.
Don't tell them
next week when I.
And Reed is never here when I want to introduce him, but the fabulous food is from Reed at the People's Kitchen. Okay, we're gonna start with announcements. I have a few announcements. There will be a candidate debate for state's attorney on July 29th in Contois, and that's for all wards. Barbara was instrumental in getting that organized for us, and that's really an important event. There'll be more information about that coming out, so stay tuned for to Front Porch Forum. And then this Saturday, a couple of indivisibles have organized events, de-icing Citizens Bank. That is also in Front Porch Forum, 12 o'clock at the South Burlington branch and 2 o'clock at the downtown Burlington branch. And we're going on our summer hiatus for the Ward 6 NPA. There will be no meetings in July and August. That's why it was really important to have a candidate forum tonight for the but keep an eye out on Front Porch Forum because we'll be posting things about what's going on in the city throughout the summer. If you're speaking, you need to be at the mic for folks online, and you need to speak loudly because the mics don't do anything in the room. And please state your name and what ward you're in. And Charlie, yes.
Keisha. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, with that, does anybody else have any announcements?
I have a quick one. If anyone's interested in how the state uses and manages its forests in the future, ANR will be hosting a rule-making meeting at Edmonds on Monday, this coming Monday. And if anyone's interested, I can get details just on the afterwards. But
You need to state your name.
I'm Type Porter,
And ward.
Ward 6.
Right. Andy, yeah.
My name is Andy Simon. I'm in Ward 5. I wasn't expecting to announce this, but every week on Tuesday from 4:30 to 5:30, a small group of us, and sometimes, up to 10 people, have been out at the Shelburne Street roundabout to protest this stupid war. And so if you would like to join us, you would be more than welcome. It's actually kind of encouraging because so many people honk and so many people wave and so few people do anything objectionable. So please come out 4:30 to 5:30 on Tuesday. Maybe the war will be over, but how will we know? Until then, we'll be out there.
Okay. Seeing no other announcements, we can go right into our candidate forum. Barbara, could you bring up the slides with, please? We're going to present the candidates by district. So the first up are the state Senate candidates for Chittenden Southeast. And I'm sorry, I didn't get your name on the slide, but here you are. We're going to have the candidates draw for their speaking order, and the candidates will each have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. This isn't any kind of a debate. It's really a very preliminary introduction for the candidates because we have a lot of candidates and we are limited on time. So each candidate will have 2 minutes, and then we'll have a few minutes for questions from the participants. Okay, sounds good. Online, we have Elizabeth Hunt for this group. So try your number.
What's the lottery?
Okay. Do you want us to switch? Yeah. Oh, so.
Yeah. Musical chairs.
Cheers. Play a little bit of musical chair.
That's really good. Oh,
Thank you.
I'm leaving. Seats. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so
Weird.
Elizabeth Hunt is number 4, will be number 4. And who do we have? Who got number 1?
Well, actually, Senator Chittenden did, but he gave it to me because I have a 1 and 3 year old.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, and then who's 2?
I am.
Joanna. 3. And yeah, 4. 5. Yeah.
6.
6.
That's for last.
Okay. So let's go. I recruited my husband Ted to be the timekeeper. He's going to hold up the orange card when you're at 2 minutes.
Okay. You're a good man, Ted.
Okay.
Well, I feel like most of the people who live in Ward 6 are here. Okay. I am Senator Keisha Rom Hinsdale. I serve as the Senate Majority Leader. I'm a mom of a 1 and 3 year old, and they are running around the backyard in bathing suits right now, so I probably won't stay for the whole meeting. I used to staff these meetings, in fact, as some may recall, but you may not want to admit that, because that was over a decade ago. I worked for the city of Burlington. I've been a teacher at Vermont Law School. I'm an environmental justice scholar. And I start teaching tomorrow in the UVM Business School, a class I teach on public policy. And I may be teaching in the fall in the Rubenstein School, but enrollment is way down at UVM, as some folks may know. So we will see. I just finished my 3rd term in the Senate. I serve on economic development and education. Many have seen me highlighted in the news potentially around housing. I have championed 3 housing bills in the last 3 years. that have led to, well, I'm not going to take full credit, but I watch things like the vacancy rate, like a hawk. Chittenden County's vacancy rate in the middle of the pandemic was 0.8%. It's now up to 4%. And when we see a healthy vacancy rate, we see lower rents, we see less homelessness. So those are the kinds of things that I feel like have helped me be successful as a senator, is to really pay attention to our metrics, what we're doing, and whether or not it's working. I moved to Senate Education because we've been talking a lot about education reform and tax reform. And I hope we don't get the two conversations confused, because tax equity is not the same as making sure we have great schools and great access to those schools. One of the things I hope we pay more attention to, and has become my laser focus this year, is career technical education. We keep Ted. That's it. I hope you don't mind if I leave early. I'm very easy to find. Just want to be home with my kids on this nice day. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joanna.
All right, I'm number 2. So, hi folks, I'm Joanna Grossman, Ward 5. I live right down the street on Flynn Avenue, and thank you NPA. I love NPA. I was on NPA steering committee for years, and I actually served with my buddy Ben Travers, who's the city council president, and he wasn't at the time. We kind of came up together, and now he's the treasurer on my campaign, so that's been really fun. And actually, the last time that I was here at Ward 6 NPA, I was co-running the campaign for the BHS bond. And as you know, the new BHS is about to open, which is so exciting. I have a 16-year-old at BHS, and they are amazing. And they're really the reason I'm running. I have a trans teen, and I'm really concerned about the state's plan to pull over $60 million out of Chittenden County schools. We need that money. We're going to be losing our ability to vote on school budgets, and that really concerns me. I love Vermont. I love how we look out for each other and we protect each other. We have amazing schools and resources, and we protect our environment, and we've worked so hard to create all these rights. But what I'm hearing over and over again is that Vermont's next generation can't afford to stay here to take advantage of those things, right? And especially as the mom of a trans teen, I don't want them to have to move to Florida. They wouldn't be safe anywhere else. We've created a refuge here in Vermont, and I want to make sure we protect it. And that's part of why I'm running. My day job is with Phoenix Books. I'm their community relations director, and they brought me in about a year ago to help them fight the Amazon same-day delivery facility that was planned at the time, but we fought and beat it. It's in the courts now, but we did beat the biggest company in the world, so it's pretty exciting. And the reason we did that is because we wanted to protect Vermont's businesses and our retailers, and it made me see how vulnerable Vermont's small businesses are. And that really matters, because at a time when the federal government is sort of melting down and we're losing all this federal funding that we've been relying on to shore up Vermont, we really need to be looking out for our economic resiliency. And I'm very concerned about that. We need to be pumping money back into the Vermont economy as much as we can and shoring up our values. And I really hope that you guys vote for me in the primary. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Number 3. First of all, thank you all for being here, and thanks for having us. This is terrific. I always enjoy getting into the wards and talking with folks. We don't have that opportunity during the session, and it actually feels like the session just ended yesterday when it was last week. I'm Ginny Lyons. I represent Chittenden Southeast. I live in Williston, and I have represented Chittenden County and Chittenden Southeast for many years, and I really enjoy doing it. When I'm in the Senate, I chair the Senate Health and Welfare Committee. I serve on appropriations, and I'm also on something called the Committee on Committees, which sounds really exciting, but it is the committee with the Lieutenant Governor and the President Pro Tem. We together appoint folks to do the work of the Senate and the various committees in the Senate. So it's an important position, and I'm really honored to be on it because I'm elected by the full Senate to be there. We did some really exciting and exceptional work during this session. The one I'll talk about first is Proposition 4, the Inclusive Equal Rights Amendment. It was I wrote it originally in 2016, introduced it a couple of times, and finally
during this session last year and this year, both the House and the Senate passed the Inclusive Equal Rights Amendment, which provides equal rights regardless of race, gender identity, religion, or ethnicity. It is an important step forward for Vermont when 24 other states already have this type of constitutional amendment. It will be on the ballot in November, and I encourage you to vote for it. I am a scientist by trade. I'm a biologist. I taught at Trinity College for many years. I taught at UVM. I have given talks at various other institutions and across the country. I use data and science to inform the work that I do. And I look forward to representing you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Elizabeth Hunt online.
Can you all
Can you
hear
all-
me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
letting me zoom in. It's my anniversary, so I had plans long before this was scheduled. And I don't know many of you, but I might see you. My in-laws live in Ward 6, so I get to see them often. I live in Charlotte, and I am running for the first time for Chittenden Southeast State Senate. I am a working mom. I've got 3 kids, ages 13 through 18. My first heading off to college, and they're all in public school and have been in Vermont their whole lives. I'm a primary care doctor, currently practicing at Timberlane Pediatrics, which is part of Primary Care Health Partners. And that's an interesting entity. It's a consortium of independent primary care in Vermont and New York. And we have said yes to just about every committee, every payment reform effort, every inclusive endeavor to see as many patients for as low cost as possible. But we have to work with insurance companies and many federal levers, which have really brought us to this inflection point where health cost, health access, it really unites all of us as individuals. It affects our older neighbors who wish to retire but have to remain in the workforce to figure out how to pay for healthcare. It affects people like therapists I know who can't stay in their own job because they can't afford health insurance, so they either switch things up or leave the state. It affects small businesses, and I was a physician owner for many years, so I know tons of the ins and outs of how to stay afloat, thrive, and do this hard work. I also, of note, I love public health. I studied public health. I was in the Peace Corps, and I worked in public health for many years, so understand how critical the foundational supports, safety nets, and access points for so many folks are. And I've seen those wane in the past 20 years and would like to shore them up more. I would also like to, I'm done. I see that. I have a, thank you.
Happy anniversary.
Okay, Bruce, you're up.
Yeah, hi, I'm Bruce Roy. I'm from Williston, and I'm running for the Senate as well. I'm a 55-year resident of Chittenden County, grew up in Essex Junction, went to the University of Vermont, went through an ROTC program at St. Michael's, got my commission, joined the Air Force, spent 4 wonderful years down in Louisiana, Mississippi area, and then came home to Vermont to raise kids, and glad I did. I spent another 25 years in the Air Guard, retiring in 2008, did a short stint, a year-long stint on active duty after 9/11. Also, along with that, I was a traditional guardsman, so I actually had my full-time job at IBM, spent 30 years there as well, retiring in 2014. Started out as an engineer, became a manager, and then for the last 10 years ended up as a business leader. When the plant over here at IBM was selling chips, we decided to sell them on the outside market. So at the end of my career, I helped manage almost $1 billion business from IBM. I'm running again. I ran in 2024. I was disappointed in that session of the legislature with the supermajority overriding the governor 12 times. I thought that was incredibly disappointing. There was no compromise. There was no real discussions, and we needed a change. Kind of asking yourself, could it have been worse? The people in Vermont saw the same thing I did, and ended up changing the balance in the legislature for this last legislative session. So there was some new voices being heard, and though the progress wasn't as well as a lot of us would have liked to have done, there certainly was a little bit more balance. So we got to a point where it could have been worse. And I'm not satisfied with that. I hope nobody in this room is satisfied with it. We need to make progress. So I'm running to change the balance in the legislature a little bit, get behind Governor Scott. He's got some good ideas that tend not to be heard all the time. And instead of being, it could have been worse, it's got to get better. So thank you for tonight, and I appreciate talking to you.
Lucky number 6. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Chittenden. Sorry to have my back to you. So I am currently serving in the Senate representing all of you. I grew up here in South Burlington, very close to the South End. I spent all my high school and college days cooling off at Oak Ledge Park, so I definitely know Ward 5 and 6. It's my favorite spot. I now live in the house that I grew up in. I joke I haven't gone very far in life. So it's the old Chittenden homestead. It's down on Dorset next to the mill. It's a money pit that I'm constantly spending my time fixing because it's been built by Chittendens over about 200 years, and they cut corners in okay ways. I mean, it's all right. So I have 3 kids in public schools. I'm married to a public school teacher. I served on the South Burlington City Council for about 8 years. While doing that, I got a taste for what it meant to serve and represent and to run for office. And then I decided to, when there were 2 openings, when Tim Mash and Deb Ingram were not running for re-election, I threw my hat in the ring and I said, I'd like to go down to the legislature and bring some of the common sense that I've hopefully had on the city council to that body. And that's what I've hopefully have done for the last 6 years. And if I'm given another 2 years, I'd continue to do that. What's important to me is having the local voices continue to be heard. So in my full-time job before I get there is I work at the University of Vermont. So that's my primary focus. I'm a lecturer in the Grossman School of Business. I get a lot of students during their first years, teaching them about spreadsheets, databases, and process models. Really exciting stuff. But I try to make it exciting. But in the legislature, I served on Senate Education my first term, and then I switched over to Senate Finance. I was on Transportation for 4 years. Then this year I asked for a change. I like moving around because state government is a massive entity. And so going on each committee, you really get to better understand different aspects of what happens in the state. So now this past session, I was on Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs for the first time, and then the Vice Chair of Senate Finance, and I also serve on Senate Ethics. I too had concerns with Act 73's foundation formula, but I feel very good about where it ultimately landed. We landed in a compromised location, and that foundation formula will not go into effect. The next legislature that sits around the table is going to have much more information about what the appropriate funding levels will be. The orange card is up. Happy to talk more during questions, but just know that I've always advocated for Burlington, and I continue to do so. Thanks. I got my time.
Any chances?
Hello, everyone. My name is Javin Sears. I'm from South Burlington, Vermont, born and raised. Born in St. Albans. I'm actually an 8th generation Vermonter on my mom's side. I'm actually the only born and raised candidate, correct me if I'm wrong, who's actually running for this position. So that's kind of interesting. But anyways, I go to UVM. I do debate there, and then also doing business school. Or does he need a mic? Oh, he has a mic.
Yes, sorry.
Can I get 10 seconds?
Yeah.
Anyways, I do debate at UVM with the Lawrence Debate Union. They're in their 126th year. I've been doing VP and civic debating there for the past 2 years. So I got to go to Africa, got to go compete against Harvard, Yale, Stanford. Do we win? No, but that's a different story. But it was a great time being there. I went to South Burlington High School. I'm a 2020 grad, actually, from the school. So what a time to graduate there. But I've been in South Burlington ever since, and I helped run a youth football program, the South Burlington Dolphins there, studying business at UVM. Well, one of the reasons why I'm running, because I'm a 24-year-old kid, you don't see a lot of that running for the Republicans right now, is that I really think that what we really need, I think one is we really need balance in our legislature. And I'm really hopeful of supporting Phil Scott and be able to actually push for the affordability agenda. There's young people like me who can't afford to live here, can't afford to grow up and stay. And I've seen so many of my friends just leave and never come back. Well, it's because we really don't have a lot of opportunity here. There's not a lot of good incentives to be able to stay here. So one of the reasons why I'm really running is because I want to be able to help, well, not only young people like me be able to stay, but also people that have lived in this community for so long, for decades, to be able to stay here and afford to be able to be here. Property taxes. I'm from South Burlington. It's, one of the biggest issues that we have to deal with. We're paying $28,000 a kid, more at South Burlington with a $74 million school budget. And, we're trying to look at the outcomes and what are people really getting out of that? And I have some concerns. And I really think we just got to be, reducing our spending in many different areas overall. But anyways, that's just a little bit about me. I could take another 2 minutes of everybody's time, but I won't. Oh wait, I do got another 10 seconds. So I will say though, really excited to be running. And I think we need better representation. Also, I think we really need young people to be represented in our legislators. So I'm really glad to be stepping up and running, and I hope other people do. So thank you guys.
Yeah. Okay. So now we'll go to questions from the audience. And again, just a reminder, we need to stick to our agenda tonight, so please be brief. And state your name. Anybody? Thanks. Andy, want to come to a mic, please?
Again, my name is Andy Simon. My question is this. As a senator, will you oppose any legislation that conflates criticism of Zionism with anti-Semitism?
Is that directed to
anyone who wants to answer it?
Well, let me just say this. I think one of the things that has been lost in the dialogue is the historical development of Israel and the Holocaust that's occurred. And so when we see your question about conflating anti-Zionism
With anti-Semitism.
with anti-Semitism, it's a direct result of not understanding our history. And so I did introduce a bill that would have Holocaust studies in high schools. And apparently there are a number of high schools that already do this, but I think it's really critical that we continue to have critical thinking about these issues. And will I oppose those? Yeah, I don't think that, I don't think this is. Thank you.
did anybody else want to?
I guess what I'd say really quickly is I don't think the way you framed the question, I'd want to look at it more, but what I hope I've proven in my service is when those issues come up, I reach out to community members that understand these issues more than I do and try to understand what that language is and how it could be offensive. Because if I knew everything, I probably wouldn't be serving in the legislature. I'd probably be making a lot more money doing other things. And so I try to reach out and inform myself on these issues as they come up. And I pride myself on being accessible. So I'd hope that if concerning legislation came up, you'd reach out, and I manage my email and I read it and I respond as fast as possible. I don't know if that's a good answer for you, but.
He or someone else would reach out.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Megan, you want to come to it, Mike, please?
I think Elizabeth had a response to.
Oh, sorry. Elizabeth, did you have a response before?
Sure, real quick. Great question. Being critical or observant or thoughtful about anti-Zionism is probably important right now. Being overtly anti-Semitic in action, in words, in decision-making is not okay. And we need to really remain strong as a community with all of the more national oppressive forces, misinformation, the role of AI and social media in young people's lives to help them, like Senator Lyons says, like understand the facts, understand the history, understand where this terminology comes from. So I've talked to many young people who are subject to anti-Semitism and or have that feeling, have that response in communication or certain messaging. And I say, let's step up and make sure people know that's not acceptable.
Sorry, Megan, to cut you off. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Hi, Megan Epler-Wood, Ward 6. I attended an amazing meeting put together about the ICE event in
Hold on a second.
Yeah, thank you. Many of you are seeking to represent South Burlington, I think, right? All of you, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's so relevant what we heard. We heard testimony from two young women, one who was, her carotid was pressed so hard she fainted. And she has given testimony, I believe. But nonetheless, what the question I asked that I wish I would like to ask you all, or at least comment on what needs to be done now about what happened there. I know it was reviewed, but what I heard is that the oversight process was not sufficient. And I'm particularly concerned about the state police is what came out of this testimony. And it seems as if more oversight on them when we have a rabid group like ICE here seeking, of course, to create all kinds of problems that we may or may not agree with, but has happened in other places like Minneapolis, as we know, and we don't want to replicate that. And it does appear that the state police got sucked into this. So I want your comments or thoughts about in the next legislative season, if you were in office, some of you already are, of course, how do you see more that can be done about this?
I'll take that, Megan. Thanks for raising that. I was at that meeting as well, where this young woman talked about how she was strangled by a state employee and law enforcement official, and it was really upsetting. And I was really disappointed, for starters, that the legislature did not get S208 over the finish line, which would have prohibited ICE from wearing a mask when they're deployed. That's scary, you know, if you're out and you don't know who is after you, like, is this really a law enforcement person? They should be able to be identified. That was really disappointing, and I'd like to see that move forward in the next session. Yeah, I mean, we need to know what happened. To just kind of drop the investigation is not acceptable, and our law enforcement should not be, you know, complicit in illegal detainments of our residents, regardless of their citizenship status.
So I'd like to comment on that as well, and I think the point that you've made is important. And I will go to the bill that we did pass, which was S209, which precludes ICE from entering schools, healthcare facilities, and other public places to keep them away from activity in these areas where people expect to have some privacy and freedom. S208, unfortunately, the Senate did pass that bill, and it began in, I believe, in Senate Judiciary, and I think Senator Vyhovsky is here. She can talk later when she's up about that bill. We did send it to the House, and House Republicans voted as a block, pretty much. I'm looking at Bram, not to support the bill that would have taken masks off and allowed people to see who the folks are who are arresting them. So we did take testimony in appropriations a little bit regarding public safety. The public safety oversight really best belongs in the judiciary committees, and those are the folks who can speak directly to how they handled that in both the Senate and in the House. But we did take testimony. The Commissioner of Public Safety was upset about the South Burlington events, but I am not sure. I don't know whether sufficient has happened to prevent some of those things from happening in the future. So difficult. We've got federal ICE employees that make it really difficult for the state to regulate. We don't have the regulatory power. So what we can do is ask our lawyers to provide for us those things that we can do. And that's what's happened with S208 and S209. There's still litigation going on, and I'll let others talk about that later.
And we're gonna have to move on to our next group of candidates. So thank you all for being with us.
Thank you, Will.
Can we stick around and listen?
Absolutely. You may have to give up your seat. So that I don't know if you want to.
We can stay here. We're fine.
You're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Okay, they're fine. You can stay. Stay. Okay, so now we're moving into Chittenden Central. We have McGill Boyle online. Elaine Haney was unable to attend tonight. I need my number to that.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thank you everyone so much.
Now you can sit down.
Understand.
All last semester.
Oh, no problem. It's really not well. You just sent me the note. Sorry. Think you'll have.
All right.
Yeah, I've been tracking A&R for a while and,
It looks just like this.
definitely, Joe. That's not the only thing.
I know.
They
don't.
No.
Oh, it's right here.
Oh, okay, so, Charlie suggested that all the candidates to say who they are again before you.
Okay, ready?
So I'm Charlie, I'm President of the United States, I'm running in District 1.
All right. I'm Joanna Grossman and I live in Ward 5, Burlington, and I'm running for State Senate in the Chittenden Southeast District.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm Javin Sears. I'm from South Burlington, 24 years old, getting out of UVM, and I'm also running for Chittenden Southeast District for the State Senate.
Thank you.
All Republicans.
Tom Chittenden, I live in South Burlington. I'm a Democrat and I am running for re-election in Chittenden Southeast to continue to represent Burlington as well as 10 other communities. So I hope to earn your vote.
Ginny Lyons, I'm currently in the Senate. I'm running for re-election in Chittenden Southeast. I live in Williston. I've represented Chittenden County for many years and look forward to doing that again. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Bruce Roy again. I'm from Williston, longtime Chittenden County resident, and I'm running for Senate for Chittenden County Southeast as well. And you can look at my policies at royforvermont.org.
And Bruce brought literature for anybody who wants to pick it up before they leave. We got everybody. I think we got everybody.
Thank you for that. It's just that the people online kind of need to hear that a second time, so.
Thank you for suggesting it. Okay, so we're now moving into Chittenden Central candidates, and you're up.
Hello, everybody. My name is Martine LaRock-Ulick. I am a senator, and I'm running for a third term. I live in the new North End of Burlington in Ward 4. I think our slice of the district here is very small. I think it's probably only about 150 people or so, but happy to be here nonetheless. I served on the Burlington School Board for 4 terms for 8 years. I was a high school teacher at Essex High School, South Burlington High School, my alma mater. And also I taught in the Czech Republic and in Germany in Wiesbaden. I serve on the Health and Welfare Committee with Ginny Lyons. She's my chair. And I also serve on Senate Finance with Thomas Chittenden. And Tanya is my seatmate, and we collaborate on a lot of really great work as far as I'm concerned. One of the reasons that I run is to be a voice for folks who don't have a place at the table, who are not heard, and who need representation and need to have a voice in places of power where they don't always have a voice. And a lot of my work has been to further that cause. I had a bill to create an Office of New Americans in state government. This year, I worked really hard to make sure that the Vermont Language Justice Project gets funding and continues to get funding, because they create videos in multiple languages so that they can respond to public health emergencies and other weather emergencies and so on and so forth. I also am very passionate about education. I served on the school district, I was co-chair of the school district redistricting task force last year. That's a mouthful. And I've served on 2 school construction task force and working groups as well. It's gratifying to see a lot of the work that we did in the school district redistricting task force become part of H955, which is the big education reform bill. And I would love to talk to you about that, but I am out of time, unfortunately. Thank you.
Next. Okay. So. Hi, I'm Tanya Vyhovsky. I am also a senator representing the Chittenden Central District. I am an Essex High School graduate. I have a bachelor's from Northeastern University. I was a double major in psychology and biology with a minor in behavioral neuroscience. And I have a master's in social work from the University of Vermont. I'm a practicing clinical social worker. I work mostly with adolescents and young adults. I am also a renter, which is an underrepresented group in the Vermont State House. And I originally ran because I didn't really feel that my needs as a young person struggling to get by in Vermont or the needs of the people I supported in my office were very well represented. Some of the work that I serve on the Judiciary Committee, and I also serve as vice chair of the Government Operations Committee. Some of the work that I have worked in collaboration with Senator Gulick on this year, S209, which is a bill that prevents warrantless civil arrest in certain sensitive locations. It's building on a current prohibition from that behavior in courthouses and expands that to extend to libraries, social service organizations, schools, daycare facilities, and certain state buildings. I was the lead sponsor on that bill and was frankly shocked that it moved as expeditiously as it did. Senator Gulick and I also worked collaboratively on S227, which is a bill that took the sanctuary schools policy from Winooski and made it a little bit more general and makes that a mandate for all school districts to protect their students and their students' data. We also worked in government operations on a bill that would mandate disclosures of false AI information in elections. Because of the First Amendment, we cannot ban that behavior, but we can make sure that it is disclosed that that is what it is. I believe strongly in lifting up the voices that are least heard and least represented, as well as making sure that we are strengthening democracy, building affordability, and making sure that everyone can thrive in Vermont, not just survive. And I went into this session and continue to carry a value of protecting our most vulnerable community members.
Thank you. Do we have Nikhil?
Hi, good evening. Sorry I can't be there with all of you. It's great to join Senator Gulick and Senator Vyhovsky tonight. My name is Nikhil Goyal. I am a sociology professor at the University of Vermont, and I'm running for Chittenden Central. I've spent my career fighting for children and families. I grew up on Long Island, came to Vermont for the first time to attend Goddard College, and fell in love with our state, the land, the values, the traditions, the people, the idea that you care for each and every one of our neighbors, and fight for progressive policies and values. I went off to the University of Cambridge, where I did my master's and PhD in sociology of education, poverty, and incarceration. I studied and engaged in a long-term study of young people who dropped out of school and grew up in deep poverty. Ended up turning that into a book, which came out a few years ago. It was named a Best Book of the Year by The New Yorker. And I spent the other part of my career in public policy, working for Senator Sanders on the U.S. Senate Budget Committee and the U.S. Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, working directly on childcare, preschool, child tax credit, and tuition-free public college legislation, going to bat every day for the people of Vermont and our values. We are facing some severe crises as a state. Each year, life gets more expensive. Property taxes, healthcare costs, energy bills are completely out of control. Our public schools are under attack, and our neighbors are being kidnapped on our streets. We need new leadership that is prepared to fight for working people, deliver for working people, that is going to go to Montpelier and enact the policies that are going to uplift the dignity of ordinary people, of organized labor, of workers, of immigrants, of people who are struggling to make ends meet. And I'm running to deliver that change. I'm running on universal primary care, to hold hospitals accountable for price gouging patients, to deliver on affordable housing, to create a land bank that would rehabilitate thousands of units of housing. So
Thank you.
Your time is up, please.
Thanks. Thank you. Any questions for these candidates for our Chittenden Central? Come up and use the record.
I'm Bob Lighty. I live in the Central District, one of the few Ward 6 people here. And I love all three of you. I think it's wonderful. But, you know, we shut down the proposed women's prison in Essex. Can you three comment on that and where we were going with this forward? Because it seems like, you know, I know nationwide we're getting rid of juvenile prisons. The recidivism in prison is far worse than it is through social interventions. I think we have experts here in this field that I would love to hear talk about.
I would probably cede most of my time to Senator Vyhovsky, who serves on the Judiciary Committee, but I will say that the conditions at the current women's prison are really deplorable and frankly dangerous. So something does need to be done to make sure that the women who are in that location have a better facility. I 100% believe in that. I also think generally speaking, incarceration is very expensive. And as you say, often has a high recidivism rate and is not what's best for society in the long run. There are therapeutic methods that we should be using, as well as facilities that we should be using. And we're being told that that's what this would be, but I think some of us have our doubts that that is what we would end up getting. I also think it's unfortunate. I think what happened in Essex, unfortunately, is an example of NIMBYism as well. I think if we find a location for a therapeutic center for women who are incarcerated, then we should embrace it. And that was actually not a bad location. But we tend in the state of Vermont, as many of you know, to not want change and not embrace new development. So there are a lot of sides to this equation, but that's my point of view, and I will cede my time.
Certainly. I agree that the conditions in the Chittenden Correctional Facility are deplorable, and that a solution maybe 10 years from now of expanding more prison beds is perhaps not the best solution. Unfortunately, we have passed laws in the last few years that have caused our incarceration rates to start going up again, which doesn't. There are other mechanisms by which we could close CRCF. They're looking at ways of community treatment for substance use, looking at ways of providing support and the social services necessary to keep people out of prison. As you pointed out, the recidivism rates for just a short period of time in our jail system drastically increases the chances that people go on to commit worse crimes, more violent crimes, whereas when we are able to divert and provide social care and social service to people who need it, we have much better outcomes, and that is borne across the world. We have one of the highest per capita rates of incarceration in the world in the United States, and yet we fall in the bottom 1/3 for safety. What we're doing isn't working, but that does mean that we need to make community investments. It means we need to make sure people are housed, people have access to on-demand harm reduction and substance use treatment, on-demand mental health care. They need to have access to childcare. Those investments are an upfront cost, but they will save us money over time because it costs on average $100,000 a year to incarcerate someone in the state of Vermont. That money could be better spent paying for them to have housing and getting them a college education, which would actually go much further to keeping our communities safe. So I think we need to think innovatively and compassionately about how we keep our communities safe and stop incarcerating nonviolent individuals, because we have a huge percentage, the women in particular, almost 60% of the women who are incarcerated are pre-trial because they can't afford bail. And most of them are there on non-violent substance use charges. So there's a lot that we need to change, not just about where we are warehousing people, but how we are thinking about investment in community and who needs to be kept away from society to keep society safe and who needs care and treatment.
I would, just echo those comments, agree with all that's been said. I've spent a lot of time working in the correctional system. I used to teach in prison in New York, teaching sociology through the New York University Prison Education Program. When I worked for Senator Sanders, we created the Vermont Corrections Post-Secondary Education Initiative that provides tuition-free community college for incarcerated people and correctional staff in all the state prisons. We know that college and prison is a surefire way to reduce recidivism and increase educational opportunity. I think, what's been said, I think is really important. We got to address the root causes of crime and social dislocation. And many of the women that are in that facility should not be there. And that even includes individuals who are, quote unquote, committed some violent crimes. Many women are survivors of domestic violence and committed their crimes in direct response to acts of severe violence inflicted upon them. And that is a very systematic part of the population, particularly women in our correctional centers. And so that is something that needs to be addressed. We need to think about resentencing. We've got to expand community-based treatment and recognize that mass incarceration is costly. It increases crime, it increases costs, and does not make any of us safer when we have these systems in place.
One last question.
My name is Ali Jalili. I'm not sure if this works. Depending on the list you look at, Vermont is either the second, third, or fourth highest tax state in the country. But unlike the top ones like California and Illinois and New York, Minnesota, we are a tiny little state. And I worry that every time Vermont legislators talk about issues that they want to solve, it's always about how can we raise taxes, from whom can we raise the taxes. Vermont does not have a lot of rich people, and it does not have a lot of businesses. And I think we should try to have more rich people and more businesses come to Vermont. And I wanted to make sure that you all heard that point of view as well.
I didn't hear a question, so.
Sorry.
That's okay.
The question is, do you agree with that, or would you like to make Vermont the #1 highest tax state in the country?
I mean, I grew up in the 1970s when the marginal tax rate on top earners was 70%.
Oh, nationally, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally.
And my family was able to move from working class to middle class. And I think the middle class is struggling right now, as well as the working class. We also, in our small rural state, are suffering because of Trump cuts to Medicaid, to insurance subsidies, to SNAP benefits. And one way we can recoup some of that money is by looking at taxing the wealthy in terms of, clawing back some of the tax cuts that they're getting. $57,000 to our wealthiest Vermonters in 1 year. So I hear you. We can't tax our way out of everything, but given the cruel policies that we are experiencing right now from the federal government, we have to do something to recoup what we're losing. Thanks.
It's not. That's okay. There are absolutely Vermonters who cannot pay more, and I think we need to do everything that we can to make Vermont affordable for them. There are, however, to Senator Gulick's point, Vermonters who just got huge tax cuts from the federal government. When I introduced S282, which would have recaptured those federal tax cuts for the top 5% of earners, that would have raised $436 million that we could have invested into the Vermonters' pockets who can't pay more, who can't put food on their table, who can't pay their rent. And I think it is really critically important that we are making sure when we have this conversation that we are looking to protect those in this state who cannot afford to be here, who live paycheck to paycheck. And that number is growing, and the wealth inequality is growing. And so think it is much more complex than simply, are we going to have the highest tax rate or the lowest tax rate? I think we really need to look at how we ease the burden on the people who are struggling to put food on their table and ask those who have plenty to help them out.
So I really appreciate the question. There are a couple points I would make. One is, when you look at the data, there are about 3,500 Vermont filers who make more than $500,000 a year, and that's about 1% of our filers. They contribute about 30% of our revenue, and so squeezing more and more out of that population forever is not a viable economic strategy on its own. I think we've got to grow the pie altogether, and make sure that we have more working age people in our state that contribute to the economy. We make it easier for businesses to grow here. Those are things that I think are really essential and not mutually exclusive with clawing back some of the federal tax cuts under the One Big Beautiful Bill. One of the proposals I'm running on is publicly financed universal primary care. And that would be, and I would argue that that can be funded in part by clawing back some of those Trump tax cuts. Vermonters, too often, they see their taxes go up, but they don't necessarily see the benefits accruing to them. And I think it's really important that in a program like UPC, we're going to guarantee universal free primary care to every Vermonter, and the very rich are going to pay a little bit more in tax, and that's going to benefit everybody in the long haul. And then the final thing I would just mention is our property taxes have gone up astronomically, in large part because of healthcare spending. And so we've got to get healthcare under control. And I know the legislature has been doing some work on that. Universal primary care is one part of that solution, making sure that our hospitals are not price gouging patients and are not charging them excessive rates. All of that can help reduce our property taxes over the long haul. So I think it's a multiplicity of strategies that we've got to engage in to get to the solution.
Okay, we're going to have to move on to our representative candidates.
Can I do the thing? Do you want us to do the thing again? Do you want us to do that thing that we did?
Yeah.
Let's
start with Nick online.
start with Nikhil. Okay, go ahead, Nikhil.
Hi, Nikhil Goyal, running for State Senate in Chittenden Central.
Hello, Senator Martine LaRocque-Gulick, running for re-election to a third term in the state Senate, and I'm running in Chittenden Central.
Senator Tanya Vihovsky, running for re-election in Chittenden Central. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Bram, do you want to switch seats and?
Do want to switch seats?
Oh, yeah.
That'll be
Adam,
fun.
do you want to?
Oh, you want us, we can get
Where would you
Yes,
like
we can move out.
Aaron and me?
Anywhere up there, just try to sit next to each other.
All right.
Thank you.
Come over one.
I can do.
I'll sit here.
Okay.
Everyone will be happy.
All right. Sure.
So, we're going to do the representatives, the three of you together, since there's three of you and nobody online.
I'll take this one.
Oh, so you're for first.
Okay,
All
all right.
Keep the districts together.
Yeah, actually, that's probably good. I apologize that I have my back to so many people. For those of you who don't know me or I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Karen Paul. I grew up in Burlington, went to Burlington High School, as did my three children who are all BHS graduates. It was an honor to commit a decade and a half to serving the city that I love and all of us love on the Burlington City Council, and most recently as City Council President. I'm running for the State House because Vermont faces many complex fiscal challenges. I think that at its core, all of the big challenges that we face, be they healthcare, education, housing, they're all essentially financial in nature, and they're going to require long-term solutions and a matter of will that make changes that will inspire and excite us and will benefit our state for years, if not generations to come. I think that we need leaders that have experience and the proven judgment and the track record to manage budgets responsibly. We need leaders who understand and will champion the needs of working Vermonters, leaders that support young families, honor seniors who are living on fixed incomes and have helped build our state, and to partner with businesses and nonprofits that drive Vermont's economy, strengthen our communities, and enrich our culture. I think that our future very much depends on the decisions that we make today. And if elected, I didn't mention it first. I am a certified public accountant. I'm a CPA. I work for a small firm in Montpelier and mostly do audits. I started my career being a financial counselor, helping people get out of bankruptcy. So I saw a lot of people that were truly at the end of their rope. And that is what inspired me to go into helping others and working on tax policy. I will be honored to represent you if you elect me. Thank you. He's timing himself.
Hello. My name is Bram Klepner. I am running for re-election to the Vermont House from Chittenden 13, which is roughly Wards 5 and Wards 6. Before I served in the legislature, I had sort of intertwined business and public policy careers. I spent 10 years at Ben & Jerry's, mostly doing international business development, where I co-led Ben & Jerry's first anti-global warming campaign. Then I spent 13 years as CEO of Danforth Pewter in Middlebury. And while I was there, the suffering that I felt dealing with health insurance for our employees caused me to be vocal about that. And my concern about the planet caused me to put Danforth on the path to zero fossil fuel use. And because I was meaningfully vocal in Montpelier, I ended up getting appointed to various boards and commissions. I served on the governor's business council on healthcare financing. I spent 5 years as co-chair of Vermont's Medicaid and Exchange Advisory Board. I was appointed to the Vermont Tax Structure Commission, and then I spent 4 years on the Vermont Climate Council. I ran for office 2 years ago because I thought that mix of business background and policy background would be helpful in navigating all of the complicated and interconnected challenges that we face. I serve on the Energy Committee, and we had a couple of nice wins. This year, we passed a bill to make it possible for Vermonters to do plug-in solar. We also passed a bill to make it easier to site larger solar facilities to co-locate them. And I will say, I co-led sponsored the bill to prevent ICE from wearing masks in the House, and almost broke House rules by speaking twice on the floor in support of that when it didn't pass. And my timer and your timer both say the same thing.
All right, thank you. So my name is Adam. I am running to represent Chittenden 14, which is a lot of Ward 8 and a small part of Ward 6 that I think some people in here do live in. I'm running because I love Burlington and I love Vermont. Vermont has been my home for my entire life. I was born up at the hospital here. I was raised and grew up in Shelburne. And so I'd like to be able to call Burlington and Vermont my home for the rest of my life as well. But right now, the city and the state are in crisis. I've watched many of my friends and people from all walks of life have to leave this state because they cannot make living in Vermont work for them, because they can't afford Vermont because of our out of control housing crisis and jobs with wages that simply do not pay the bills. And so I believe that we need a new kind of politics that does not accept that these problems will just exist forever and does not accept the status quo that created them, but that takes them head on and puts people first and moneyed interests last. I'm running because I believe that my experience as a labor organizer will be of good use up in Montpelier. I was recently part of the effort to unionize Healthy Living. I work at the Healthy Living store in South Burlington, and in the last 2 months, my coworkers and I created a union together through solidarity, and yeah, was able to bring the fight to the company despite thousands of dollars of union busting and despite attempts to break people apart and to destroy the solidarity that we had. So I've seen how labor law and the laws that govern this country and this state are designed to put working people last. But I've also seen how we can all come together, we can beat division. And so I believe that this lesson that we can be brought to Montpelier, that we can bring people together and build a movement that makes a Vermont that puts the many first and not the few.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for our candidates, our representatives?
I'll let Judge get copies.
One.
So our governor seems to be pro data centers and nukes. Can you comment on how you feel about data centers and nukes?
Sure, I'll start if that's okay with you. My committee and I crafted a really good data center bill. And the thought was that no large data centers are immediately planned for Vermont, but it would be wise of us to be prepared in case anyone does want to build one here. So we crafted a really nice bill that would have required data centers to provide their own electricity and transmission upgrades so that there's no negative effect on ratepayers, no one's power bill would go up. That would require them to use closed loop cooling systems so they wouldn't be drawing hundreds of thousands of gallons of ground or surface water every day, that had tight noise regulations that required them to install as much renewable energy as possible, solar on the roof and all of those sorts of things. And it was really disappointing that the governor vetoed it. As concerns nukes, and I will say, we are not in a great deal of danger here, because in addition to everything I just said, existing law would require data centers to adhere to the Act 250 criteria as well. And for all those reasons, because there are more requirements here, and because we live in a pretty high cost electricity part of the country, it's very unlikely that they will come. But we wanted to be prepared if they did, and the governor screwed that up. I will say on the subject of nuclear power, it is fundamentally flawed because we do not have any permanent storage facility for radioactive waste, period. Like, it's just insane to build more nuclear power. And no one's figured out the economics. These things lose tons of money, and they're just a disaster all around. They're sort of spherically flawed. It's a mistake no matter what angle you look at it from. I will say that the dream of clean, renewable fusion power, has been 30 years in the future for the last 70 years. But I've been paying very close attention to it, and it is now much less than 30 years out. There is one company that has a contract to produce fusion power by the end of 2028. And there are another company from Massachusetts that's building a facility in Virginia that'll be early 2030s. So if someone were to want to site a fusion facility where Vermont Yankee used to be, I would be very interested in having that conversation.
Well, the only thing that I can say is I felt that the data center bill was very thoughtful and was sorry to see it end the way it did.
Yeah, I think the issue around data centers in particular is very important right now because we're seeing those go up all across the country. And I do support a moratorium on new AI data centers being built, like Senator Sanders has proposed. And I'm disappointed that the governor does not support that. And I'm hoping that's something that we can fight for in the next session.
I just have a question. Is there anything that you saw that didn't make it through the House this year, that didn't make it through to the governor's desk this year, that you would prioritize if you're elected?
I went first last time, so.
Sure. One thing that I was tracking very closely was a bill that Senator Bihovsky was one of the sponsors for in the Senate, which was a bill to tax the wealthy by introducing new income tax brands for Vermonters making over $250,000 and $500,000 a year. And it would do a few other things, including a wealth proceeds tax. I think that's very important for right now when we have such an affordability crisis, is having a more equitable tax system, and also funding things like healthcare, education, and affordable housing. I think it's badly needed, and that would be something that I would look forward to continuing to push for in the next session if I'm elected.
I would just add that, and I know this came up in the last series of these senators that came and spoke, was the masking bill. I really would have liked to have seen that gone all the way to the finish line, and won't be surprised if it's back next year.
And I would agree with that. I think my biggest disappointment was S-208, the bill that would have prohibited ICE from being masked, required them to be in uniform that identified the branch of law enforcement, name and number. I think it's just a spectacular infringement on our civil rights to have masked anonymous people snatching Vermonters out of their homes and off the streets and bundling them into unmarked vehicles. That's not an arrest, that's an abduction, and has no place in our country or our state.
Okay, with that we will need to move on. Thank you. And for the camera, would you just restate your name and what you're running for?
My name is Adam Franz. I live in Ward 8 here in Burlington, and I am running for Chittenden 14 House District.
Hi, I'm Karen Paul. I live in Ward 6 and I'm running for Chittenden 13. Oh, go ahead.
And I'm Bram Klepner. I also live in Ward 6. I'm running for re-election to the Vermont House from Chittenden 13, which is Wards 5 and 6.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so next we have online Charles Dillard from the Planning Department, who's going to talk about the South End Innovation District project.
Are there more people who are going to move here? Are there more people who need to sit here, or can I stay?
No, you can stay.
All right. Sometimes it's fun to move, sometimes it's fun to stay.
Thanks, Charles, for your patience.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Great. Okay. Thank you to Ward 6 NPA, and thanks, Nancy, for having me. I've just been asked to give a brief update on the South End Innovation District, including the Secord development. That's the South End Coordinated Redevelopment, which is the 13 plus acres in which the city is engaged in a development agreement with Roger Bike LLC, and in the future, perhaps engaged with Champlain College on some adjacent land. I have just a very brief few slides. Nancy asked me not to prepare a long deck here, but I do just want to share a few slides just because there are some, I think, important updates since many of you maybe last saw this work. All right. So this is sort of a recap of a city council presentation that staff and the development team gave earlier in May, or last month now at this point. So the South End Innovation District, as many of you probably recall, is an overlay, zoning overlay, that is essentially placed on top of the underlying enterprise light manufacturing district. The overlay is about 80 acres of land outlined here in this sort of bluish green, but you can sort of see how it lays out in the context of the city. This is another aerial view of that zoning district. So at the north end, it is the two brownfield parcels, 453 Pine and 501 Pine, one of which is a Superfund site, and at the south end, properties on the south side of Sears Lane, extending from Hula on the west to portions of Pine Street on the east. The Plan BTV South End, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, was a multi-year planning process to guide the evolution of the South End. And I think critically, what's important is that plan explicitly said, the community is not quite ready to allow housing in this part of town. But that the community should continue a sort of dialogue, community conversation about whether or not housing should, in fact, be allowed. That plan was adopted in 2019. Obviously, many things happened just after that. We have a pandemic, many other things. The housing crisis, I think, has become much more in the foreground for many people in Burlington, probably everybody in Burlington. And so, not just 4 years later, in 2023, the City Council did adopt unanimously the South End Innovation District zoning, which allows not just housing, but some of the densest housing in the state of Vermont. The amendment was that venue for that continued community dialogue on housing in the South End. The process was more akin to an area plan. We engaged deeply with the community on fairly sophisticated technical planning topics that got into issues of urban design and land use and sustainability. And ultimately, that framework also creates a land use framework that acknowledges everything that is great about the Pine Street corridor and the larger South End while creating a pathway for an amenity-rich, convenient urban neighborhood. I won't spend too much time on this, but I think it's just important to say that the development, the first phase of development that is happening in the South End Innovation District, which is Secord, really does align very closely with a lot of what the community expressed in Plan BTV South End and the South End Innovation District zoning process. This is a sort of plan view, a conceptual plan view of what that development could look like ultimately. You've got, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but Lakeside Avenue at the top of the screen here, and then Sears Lane at the bottom, the Champlain Parkway running through the middle here. The first phase of the development is the piece in the northwest corner. That is actually the sort of building footprint of the first phase. But you can see the sort of, well, I'll just point out a few things. The bike infrastructure is highlighted in blue in these images, sort of greenish blue. So you've got the existing Island Line Trail or the Greenway bike path, which you might know it as well as the Champlain Parkway's own bike path. But the proposed conceptual plan for the larger build out at Secord does propose an additional street running north-south with its own separated bike facilities, very narrow one-lane direction. Car travel, lots of green infrastructure for stormwater and climate resiliency. Secord is the South End Coordinated Redevelopment. This is the working name. It's likely to have a new name sometime soon, but ultimately this project could result in up to 1,400 units, a minimum of which 20% of which would be affordable. In fact, the first phase of Secord project is almost certainly going to exceed 30% affordability. So that is 20% affordable at the city's inclusionary zoning requirement and an additional 13% at a slightly higher income level. Again, the whole development, very car light, walkable, bikeable, will provide some infrastructure improvements to the South End's water infrastructure. Community and commercial space. I'll show you an image about the sustainability, and obviously, I hope it goes without saying that today this collection of parcels is almost entirely impervious, and so any development will increase the perviousness of the permeability rather of the ground, and so that should help to clean up the lake in the immediate vicinity. I'm just going to skip over that, just show you some renderings. This is a rendering of the first building. This has obtained its permits. This building is 204 units, consisting of 49 studios, 122 one-bedrooms, and 33 two-bedrooms. About just under 8,000 square feet of non-residential space, which will include anything from neighborhood retail uses to makerspace, health and wellness. It will include new public streets and sidewalks, stormwater and wastewater improvements, and other infrastructure. Just wanted to pause a bit on this slide because I do think that this building does raise the bar for development in Burlington. It is constructed with several sort of characteristics that we're really excited about and that do in fact very much align with the South End Innovation District zoning, which foregrounds sustainability. You have an outdoor deck which provides every unit in this building the ability to cross ventilate. There is geothermal light and light access on at least two sides for almost all units as well. The sort of outdoor deck is not just a corridor for accessing units, but it's also a social space with its generous width. There will be an interior courtyard with stormwater detention, rain gardens, social space for electric vehicle charging, all that sort of stuff. There will be a rooftop terrace and rooftop plantings. The building is also notable because it is one of the first buildings in Burlington constructed of mass timber, which has a much lower, what we call embodied carbon footprint than typical concrete or steel construction. That's the project. I will stop there and just say that we know you may have seen some other stories in the news recently about a housing development at 453 Pine Street, which would add an additional 112 units. So I think there's a lot of interest in the South End Innovation District and what it could mean for the evolution of the South End. And I'm happy to take any questions or respond to any feedback.
Hi, Charles. I'm Megan Epler-Wood, and I was on the Green Infrastructure Committee that worked with the NPA for the last year. We haven't been as active or really active this year, but this is the first time I've seen the new plan since we testified to the Planning Commission. And you may remember that we were concerned about the variance and Ann Geyer and I attended that, and I see, we were told the city was going to take care of it, so I'm really interested in seeing the new plans, and I just was wondering, as a question, knowing, of course, the amount of rainfall we're dealing with, and whatever projections for more rainfall that I imagine you all have looked at, how do you feel that what you've designed to date on stormwater and green infrastructure solutions for that will hold up? I just leave it with what Joan Shannon said as she left one of those meetings, because she lives in that neighborhood, and said they always promise, but they don't deliver when it comes to preventing flooding on the Pine Street corridor. Now, I know this is not the same team that she's talking about, but as you know, it's a very, very flood prone area. So how are you feeling about the solutions you came up with?
Yeah, and I just want to be clear that this first phase of development is it's a private development. The city has participated in a development agreement around certain aspects of the financing and also the design. The designers of this project are GOA Architecture out of New Haven, as well as Wagner Hodgson, which is a Burlington landscape architecture firm, and Engineering Ventures, which is a Burlington engineering firm, who've been designing collectively the stormwater systems. The project has been permitted by Water Resources. I think some of the flooding on the Pine Street corridor that you reference is related to some of the combined sewer system along that corridor. So this development will provide retention of stormwater. I know that the long-term plan does address a lot of the combined sewer situation on Pine Street and should lead to fewer outfalls in the lake. I don't have specifics on that. I'm happy to relay any specific questions regarding engineering to the Water Resources team. But I do think that just with respect to this building, there are, in addition to a stormwater detention garden in the interior courtyard, there are stormwater rain gardens on the streetscape itself as well. And I do think that there's also just a sort of lawn area in the courtyard. And so collectively that will dramatically increase the permeability on this site. And I know that that is the goal for the rest of the project. The team has been very focused on water quality, but again, I'm happy to sort of get the team to, I think, to maybe produce a more sort of specific set of information related to stormwater for you.
Great for the NPA, right? Because
I took a note that we could follow up on that. For
Yeah.
Future meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I've been attending a lot of meetings myself in my own work about projections for these types of things because of
Yeah.
climate resilience, and it's it's challenging. But
Yeah.
if they could include not just current rainfall but future rainfall as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. And I will just say that I hope you all are paying attention to the Plan BTV 2050 process, which is an update to the comprehensive plan, which also includes new transportation, economic development, and parks, recreation, waterfront planning. We're going to be doing some scenario planning in that, which will allow us to model many different data indicators. And I think stormwater is one such indicator. I think it's very much possible that we could model out what the permeability of Burlington will be with potentially 7,000 new units of housing and what that might mean for localized and generalized stormwater conditions.
That's exactly what I mean. Thank you.
Yep.
I see a hand is raised on line.
Laura O has had her hand up for a while.
Laura?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah, I just had a question. One about the timeline for phase one, and two, I'm unfamiliar with this sort of project, but curious about how rent caps will be enforced in terms of, I don't know how ownership works, but is there a plan or at least maybe like a estimated price for each type of unit that you have anticipated for this project?
Yes. Can you remind me of the first part of your question?
Yeah, sorry, one at a time. Timeline for phase one.
Timeline. Yeah, sorry. Yes. The project will take a couple of years to construct, and so the developer's goal is to lease this building for occupancy in summer of 2028. And the rents, so 31 units, which is 15%, will be affordable at 65% of AMI. However, that's the
Sorry to interrupt.
requirement.
Can you define AMI? I'm not familiar.
Yeah, I'm
with
sorry.
this.
Area median income is the federal sort of definition here. So that is essentially just that. It's the median income of all households in Burlington or in any given area. So the city's requirements for this zoning district are such that 15% have to be affordable to a household earning 65% of the area median income, which is relatively high, although quite unprecedentedly, it's actually decreased a little bit this year. There's an additional Act 250 priority housing project rule that allows a bonus in density and height in exchange for deeper or more affordable, not deeper, but more affordability. However, the developer that Roger Bike has brought on is one of the country's largest affordable housing developers, mixed income developers. And the rents, so just an idea of the rents here. The most affordable studios, 12 of which the target is for the rent to be about $1,100. A 2-bedroom would be about $1,300 to $1,400, and that's at 50% AMI. At 70% AMI, it goes up. A studio would be about $1,500. A 2-bedroom would be about $1,900, and that's affordable, such that a family making or a household making 70% of the area median income would not be spending more than 30% of their income on rent. So that's just a snapshot of what the rents here would be.
Okay.
And I do just want to reiterate, yeah, sorry.
15% of housing, that is what you were just talking about, that it only applies to 15%.
15% meets the baseline, but the target here is 67 units. So 41 units it's complicated because this developer is actually going far beyond the city's inclusionary zoning standards. 15% is the minimum. This developer, though, is targeting 41 units, which is 20% at 50% of area median income, and an additional 26 units at 70% AMI. So that's 33% of all units in the building will be affordable at either 50 or 70% of the area median income.
Okay, can I ask what the others would be priced at that are not?
Market rates. I don't think, I can't tell you what is projected right now. I think that's all very fluid, and what they might rent for today is different than what it might be in 2 years. The rents, I think we have actually seen rents falling a little bit in Burlington, especially
Tell that to my
compared
landlord. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And this is, I definitely don't mean this to say that this is everybody's experience, but in 2020, Burlington did experience an influx of very wealthy households that did result in rents peaking. And since that 2020 peak, or 2021 probably peak in rents, we have seen some rents falling. In addition, the vacancy rate has risen a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for answering my questions.
Yep.
Joel Hacken, Ward 6. We currently have a waste treatment plant here in Burlington that can't keep up with the current number of residents. Now you're talking about adding a huge development. What's going on with the waste treatment plant to handle the increase in housing?
Yeah, so you may recall there was a bond referendum last year that was approved with significant majorities that will pay for an expansion of the central wastewater treatment plant. This project
by this time.
Much of it, yes. This phase of 200 units does not need the increased capacity of the wastewater tank.
Yeah, it does. You're currently dumping raw sewage into the lake.
Yeah,
So,
I'm happy to connect you with our water resources team to get you more specific information on this.
So we can talk about a follow-up with water resources on the project. Is your question quick? Because we're losing people rapidly.
Yeah. Hi, Bob Whitey here. So Champlain College runs a bus service from their parking lot here up to campus, stopping in Center City. This is housing for workers. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could include the people that live in this neighborhood with that almost always empty bus to bring people up to where the work is in Center City and up at the hospital and the college?
You mean the people living in this new development?
Yeah, it's right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
It's right across the street, bringing
Yeah.
people up the hill.
Yeah, no, it's a great comment. I know that Russ Scully, who founded Hula and is the leader of the Ride Your Bike group, is very interested in having this be car light, which is consistent with the city's values and principles here. I know that there are discussions about, in addition to transit, locating. We're in talks with GMT and understanding how the transit route might be revised when more people are living in this area. Car share, I think a significant bank of car share cars is likely to come to this neighborhood. I think the one goal of this entire project is to demonstrate that, owning a car in Burlington, while it's necessary for almost all people today who can afford it, is not going to be the case in the future, and that there will be other ways to get around. Some of that might be driving your own car. Some of that might be driving a car share car or transit or a bike or walking or rolling or however folks can get around. But we are looking also at, once this whole project is built out, of having a mobility hub that does locate a transit stop sort of shelter, heated as well as indoor bicycle parking, amenities for cyclists and others, including showers and lockers and all sorts of things.
Well, Charles, thank you very much. We have some follow-up coming from this discussion that we'll take back to the steering committee.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again. And sorry I couldn't be there in person, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you. You too. Okay, so we're almost wrapped up. We just have to do the most important thing, which is to vote for our new steering committee members, and one who could not be here tonight, Teresa Mars, has a new baby at home, but she's raring to go, and she's going to start in September with the new steering committee. So, all in favor of our nominees?
Is voting restricted to Ward 6?
Ward, yes.
Yes.
Yes. All the nays? I told you, unanimous.
You'll be fine. And hold your head.
Yeah.
Possibly amend.
Just to highlight, it was posted in Front Porch Forum. We'll probably do it again. We've been getting a lot of feedback from people on what's working well in the city, what things we want to work on, have the city work on, what things we want to change. We're going to be prioritizing those in the first NPA meeting in September. So keep thinking about that. If you have any ideas, submit it to the steering committee. And be back here in September. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Nancy.